Hi everybody! We're smack dab in the middle of summer and it reminded me of one of my favorite things to build with perler beads. Accessories. Hairpieces specifically. And for this time of year, my favorite things to make are ice cream and candy, although you can obviously see I've dabbled in some other themes already. Though you can turn small perler art like this into all sorts of things like magnets, jewelry, pins, and so on, today I'm going to teach you how to make hairpieces like these. Before we get started, here's everything you'll need to make your own perler accessories. Your beads, board, iron, and ironing paper of course, some glue, I recommend hot glue or super, and something to attach your pieces to. Originally, I used to use alligator clips for their strong hold and easy gluing surface, but something I just recently started doing is going to dollar stores and getting cheap headbands and bows to try matching with my pieces, and I definitely recommend giving this a try. And if you can't get any of those things, bobby pins also work surprisingly well. I'll show you how each of these options look. When I'm making small free-form artwork like this, I'm not really concerned about following a pattern or planning my colors out ahead of time. You can feel free to use the patterns I create here, of course, but I definitely recommend experimenting with your own colors if you feel comfortable. This is a great way to use up those mixed bins, or to use colors you never find yourself using anywhere else. I definitely take advantage of the blush shade the buckets are always overloaded with to make orange cream themed pieces, like this orange creamsicle bar. When I'm making ice cream bars and popsicles, I make a base of 7 across with sides that are 8 beads long, tapering off the top to a set of 3 beads for that rounded appearance. I usually like to make this little W shape on one side to indicate where a bite has been taken out of the bar. I use tan or brown beads to make a stick about 3 or 4 beads long. And for the colors, I just try to imagine some of my favorite ice cream bar flavors, or flavors I want to try. Cotton candy, watermelon, mint chocolate chip, chocolate fudge. This time I also made a double stick pop. Banana chocolate. Ice cream cones are my other favorite summer staple. I eat a ton of ice cream all year long anyway, so I have plenty of ice cream cone ideas. My usual pattern for the cone is a checkerboard pattern. 2 sets of 2 and then 2 sets of 4, topped with a line of 6 and 2 sets of 4 again for the ice cream scoop. I either top it with a set of 2 for a plain ice cream, or for whipped cream, with one little cherry or a candy piece on top. I started with some basic flavor ideas like hot fudge sundae and mint with a pink drizzle, but I also have a blueberry ice cream, and this time I've made some new flavors again. I also want to make a slightly larger cone, sort of like a double scoop waffle cone. I add an extra bead at the base to give the cone a point, and add a second scoop on top of the first. My flavor this time is lavender, and I think I'll add a heap of whipped cream and a cherry to it. Using the same design, I decided to make a cone that uses up some colors I always have too many of in the bins: plum, pastel lavender, and raspberry. I didn't really plan for this, but looking at this cone with the dark shades and purples, I actually have an idea for how this could fit a different theme than my summer ice cream set. Comment below if you can guess what I'm thinking. When I make candy, my staples are usually round pieces like peppermint, bubblegum, and swirl candies, though I also like to make pieces that look like they're in their wrapper. I can just hear the sound of reaching into a bucket of wrapped candies. This time I made a clear green candy ball, a regular peppermint to go with my chocolate mint versions, and some smaller wrapped candies. I like to add a border and a little shine to my pieces. For wrapped pieces, just add 2 small triangles to each side of your candy piece, making sure the tip of the triangle is centered on the side of the candy. I didn't realize until halfway through making these that I basically made 2 sets of Powerpuff themed candies, but there you go. I also tried my hand at making a rainbow swirl lollipop. Anytime you're making a round shape in perler beads, a good standard method is to just make a 4x4 square or bigger and cut the corners off. Something to note about these small sets is that you don't always have to iron both sides of the piece. Sometimes I'll only iron one side, which actually leaves the piece more flexible, which could be useful later when we're attaching some of them to the headbands. Now that we have some pieces to work with, let's talk about our attachment options. Alligator clips are easy to glue and have a very strong hold. You can stick anything on an alligator clip and honestly, it's going to look like you bought it like that. I like to put my glue on the thickest end of the clip and then center my piece on it, alternating between leaving the end visible and hiding the entire clip with the piece. If you hide the clip, you get the effect that the piece is really just stuck in place on its own, and the bright colors are left to really pop. Tiny bows are my new favorite for making headpieces with, and probably the option that'll most look like you bought it straight off the rack. I just start with a pile of bows and hold my pieces over them to see what colors match up. And then when I pick one I like, I place a dab of glue right on the center of the bow knot and press my piece on top of it. It should look like your piece has a bow tied behind it, or like it grew wings. Headbands can be tricky just because they have a bend and they need to be a material that will hold on to whatever type of glue you're using. I usually use a cheap plastic kind if I'm adding to them. I had my eye on this sparkly green one for its minty qualities, so I'm going to see if I can attach my mint ice cream bar to it. This time, I make a long strip of glue on the piece and then press it down a couple inches up from the base of the headband, and I try to hold it in the glue until the whole strip is hardened. Because this ice cream bar was already ironed on both sides, it's a little more stiff and pulls away from the bend of the band. It'll still hold though. Now let's try the same thing with this dark pinkish purple band and our two large ice cream cones. These make me think of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, and specifically the Blacklight mode in FNAF Help Wanted, because it looks like the same ice cream cone in and out of Blacklight mode. I decided to put one cone on either side of the headband. Because I wanted these pieces to be flexible, I only ironed one of the sides and then went back and ironed the second side once I knew how I wanted them placed on the band. I made sure to bend it as it was cooling, which helped the whole thing align easier along the headband when I was attaching it. If you happen to have bobby pins, you're in luck, because I gave these a shot for the first time while I was filming this video, and I was surprised at how well they worked. When you're gluing, you just need to make sure to separate the top and bottom of the pin, attaching the piece to the top with enough glue to partially submerge it. This method is another great way to give off the illusion of the pieces sticking freely into hair, although it's a little less strong than an alligator clip if you were going to clip it onto like a strap or a tie. My candy and ice cream hair pieces are heavily inspired by Harajuku and Decora fashion, and they make for a great addition to themed outfits or cosplays, so I hope you give them a try. Once you get started making accessories from perler beads, it can be hard to stop, especially given their versatility. Other things are really easy to pick up and to find online. I've made and found Minecraft clips, Pokemon clips, Starbucks drink clips, and more. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about how to make your own perler accessories, or if you want to see some other themed clips in the future. Happy perling!